Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai Bahashim Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, to the Akim doing the work in truth and sincerity, as well as a few Akwat that listen and learn. This is Brother Shawar with another lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai. And just recently there was a situation on, I just kind of want to bring some balance to it in the spirit, through the scriptures, Yahweh Ratazah, because there was a famous Instagram couple, Kristy and Desmond Scott. They've recently divorced. They've been a famous Instagram couple for I think it was 11 or 12 years. And situation came out, whatever, where apparently, and when you see their videos, she's the woman is pretty much leading the relationship in a way. She's kind of the main character in a sense, and he's just supporting. And they've built a lot of money off it, whatever. They have 2 kids and all that. So infidelity was the reason for cheating, or Salakia was the reason for the divorce, right? Him cheating, quote unquote. And I want to play these clips about it first that I saw on Instagram, and just bring edification through it, because a lot of edification can come out through this, and just balance, because if you know the Bible, us in the know and the truth, we understand the reality of what marriage is supposed to be, how it's supposed to be done, and the times we're in and how it's being done now. But the people of the world clearly don't have understanding of this, and we've been led astray, we've been taught wrong on how to go about these things, and it's become a business and a weapon against the man, especially the Israelite man, the so-called Negro, Latino, Native American man, right? But it's all men at this point, and a woman sometimes as well. But it's really to benefit, more than likely or more times than not, is benefiting the woman. But let's let these clips play, and then we'll get some scriptures, and Lord willing, the edification will be brought out.
You notice the impatient look Desmond Scott gives Kristy Sarah? 3 details prove that Desmond has already fallen out of love. Recently, Kristy officially filed for divorce from her childhood sweetheart and husband of 11 years, citing Desmond's infidelity during their marriage. In fact, keen-eyed fans had already noticed the subtle changes between the two. In the couple's daily life videos released before the divorce, Kristy is always cheerful and playful. However, Desmond's response is not his usual affectionate smile, but instead a slight furrowed brow and a gaze that drifts away in impatience. This wasn't an isolated incident. Fans analyzed the shift and noticed that Desmond's gaze went from a deeply affectionate look in 2024 to a reluctantly indifferent look in 2025. His body language also shifted from being close and engaged to leaning slightly away, a subtle sign of emotional distance. Second, in their shared social media posts, Desmond has always presented himself as a gentleman, while Kristy has become increasingly arrogant and assertive. As time passed, Desmond seems to have intentionally distanced himself from Kristy, revealing his growing indifference towards their marriage. Lastly, the most obvious change occurred a few months ago when Desmond quietly removed his wedding ring, the symbol of loyalty and love, raising suspicions that he may have...
What really happens when the ultimate internet power couple turns off the ring light? Look, you've already seen the headlines about Kristy and Desmond Scott. It's everywhere. But you know that on this channel, we don't just scroll past the headlines. We dig underneath them to find the uncomfortable truths. And honestly, this one hurts. For over a decade, I bought into the Scotts just like you did. They were the blueprint. High school sweethearts who met at 14. She was the wild extrovert doing backflips in heels. He was the quiet, steady chef, the ultimate green flag husband, always in the background. They built a multi-million-dollar empire, gained 26 million followers, and raised 2 beautiful boys on the premise that their love was the real deal. Just last year, in 2024, they threw an enormous, elegant 10th anniversary party. They told magazines they were still best friends who focused on constantly laughing. They were posting happy videos right up until December 2025. But here is the deeply sad truth hidden beneath that curated feed. While we were double-tapping their wholesome family dynamics, the foundation was completely rotting. When Kristy filed those papers in Texas on December 30th, she didn't use the standard Hollywood excuse of irreconcilable differences. She dropped a bomb. She cited alleged infidelity. And the language in the court documents? It's terrifyingly final. It states that this betrayal completely wiped out any reasonable chance of reconciliation. Think about that phrase. 11 years of history wiped out. Now, everything they built is at risk, not just their reputation, but their joint production company, ironically named Meant to Be Films. It makes you look at your For You page differently, doesn't it? If the ultimate green flag couple was living a lie, what else on this app is fake? What's your take? Did the fame destroy them, or was the perfect husband act just an act the whole time? Let me know in the comments and hit that follow button. Because when the next layer of this story peels back, you know I'll be here to uncover it.
All right, so we see, the situation, the basis of the situation. There's obviously details and stuff we don't know, and the details don't really matter per se, because this is, about bringing edification and showing you how this world is pretty much adverse to the Lord. And everyone thinks that what we've been taught is the right way, when the way the Lord created things to be, is far from what we see in front of us today. And people really believe it. You read all these comments. I was going through some of the comments on the videos, and of course a lot of women, condemning this man for quote unquote cheating. And some people were saying, she was probably driving him crazy, and he was probably tired of, doing this internet BS for however long, whatever. But let's get some scripts, man, and get into it, because point blank and off the rip, the structure of a relationship and the ideologies of relationships today is just off. The Lord never intended monogamy to be the end all be all. Right? This is an Edomite social construct that he's put in place to pretty much, for multiple reasons, to keep down the Israelite man, cause confusion between men and women, and I believe also to control population as well. So let's get this in Psalms 82:5. It reads, "They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are out of course." Right, so all the foundations of the earth, meaning the order of the earth and how it's supposed to be, is out of course. And why is that? Because who is ruling? The wicked. Job 9:24, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. They've taken all the natural orders of the earth and just perverted them and turned them out to benefit their greed and their wicked ideas and whatnot. No, it's not just this. It's the food. It's how we live. It's how we pretty much just work to die. Everyone's everyone's basically on a hamster wheel. We're all just slaves to keep up the elites, to keep up their wealth and their control. And that's coming in a greater way with the MOTB, but that's another lesson for another day. But nonetheless, they've created this idea of monogamy for the peons, for the slaves, because these high level politicians and the elites, they don't do monogamy. And that's come out, dude. That's public information. And even on a lower level, even rich Israelite men or rich men in general, a lot of them don't even move like that either. Right? And there's some women who are just okay with it, but even on that level, there's women who try and reject it, because this is what they've been taught. They've been enchanted to believe that they're supposed to be with one man, or that one man is just supposed to be with them, Salakia, and that's it. No, the Lord created men, especially the Israelite men, to be polygamous. That's just how it is. That's the nature of a man. And the first thing people are going to say is, oh, they just want to, it's just about pleasure. It's not just about pleasure. It's about family. It's about order. It's about nation building. And this is the way the Heavenly Father set it up. You go back and read, the 12 tribes of Israel came out of 4 different women. Right? And again, we're in captivity. I got to say this now, because a lot of people will take things out of, they'll just take it and run with it and be simple. But we're in a time where, you should be smart. This isn't the time to just try and have as many wives as you can or whatever. I mean, every brother is different. Move how you want to move. You know, whatever works for you through the Spirit. But, you know what I mean? I'm not just saying go out here and try and live like we're in the ancient world. But I am saying this is how it's supposed to be. And there's a balance with this, you know what I mean? There's understanding and obviously knowing the situation. So let's get this in 1 Corinthians 11 and 8. And this is something as well that has been completely neglected with these ideologies Esau's been pushing, especially feminism, right? So this is 1 Corinthians 11 and 8. It reads, "For the man is not of the woman, but the woman of the man. Neither was the man created for the woman, but the woman for the man," right? So even this whole dynamic of this relationship, not to say behind closed doors, it wasn't like that. You know, like I said, we don't know details, but let's say it's not based off what we can perceive, because that's a lot of that's a reality in a lot of cases, right? The woman isn't supposed to be leading anything. Esau has created a society where women have too much power, you know. That's not even to say, you know, women can't make no type of good decisions, or they can't, you know, it's a different world. They've created the world that way, so fend for yourself. But a woman is supposed to be in her role, which is holding down the husband and protecting the kids and holding down the household. And you shouldn't have to be doing heavy lifting, basically. And women look at that as a bad thing when, no, the Lord didn't give you the capacity to do heavy lifting and have all these, you know, this much on your plate like a man. That's just how he created it. And that's fine. That's completely fine. But they look at it as a bad thing because this is how they've been conditioned to think because of who? Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. This has pushed these ideologies on all women. And people want to act like monogamy has always been here. This is a relatively new thing in the earth. It's actually a very new thing in the earth. The concept of monogamy is really, and you know, this is new, and everyone wants to act like this is always how it's been and this is how it should be, right? And the man is always at fault for pretty much exercising, you know, especially the Israelite man, his God-given right. Right? The man isn't supposed to. He's supposed to be free and still responsible. I'm not saying, again, just do whatever. We're in a situation where a lot of women is trash out here anyway. But man is supposed to have free reign to be sovereign and to build and to have as many wives as he can handle, however many he desires, and to have a big family and to help nation build in that way and to have resources and all that. This is how a man is supposed to operate, but we can't do this in this setup because we're in captivity as Israelites, right? Esau got our people mentally gone, messed up, believing in a whole bunch of BS, confused, and you know, with their crafty counsel, you know, we're bound to, you know, we're bound to these different contracts and laws and policies that we can't get around. Right? So let's hold on, I got some scripts lined up. I don't want to make this too long, but let's get this in Romans, the 7th chapter, dealing with pretty much dealing with divorce. And because even the divorce itself, right? You know, you're not supposed to just break up. This is the thing of today. You know, men and women are just breaking up left and right. And this is how this is a big way women start racking up these bodies. Because you're not supposed to, scripture tells us you're not supposed to make a whore out of the daughters of Zion, out of your own woman. You're not supposed to just go around just popping all these women and then not dealing with them. Because that's not what I'm saying either. There's a responsibility that comes with the act of sex. So this is not just about that. Right? But when you're dealing with marriage, you're not supposed to just be breaking up unions like that. You're supposed to make it work, and it's supposed to stay together, unless the man dies, or he really just, you know, it's an extreme situation and he really just feels the need to put her away. And even in that case, she's not supposed to get with another man until he dies. That's the law, right? But let's get this in Romans 7, and starting at the top, it reads, "Know ye not, brethren, for I speak to them that know the law, how the law have dominion over a man as long as he liveth. For the woman which have an husband is bound by the law to her husband, so long as he liveth. But if the husband be dead, she is loose from the law of her husband," right? So then if while her husband liveth, she be married to another man, she shall be called an adulteress. But if her husband be dead, she is free from that law, so that she is no adulteress, though she be married to another man, right? And adultery is when a man has sex with another man's wife, because the act of sex is what actually consummates a marriage. That's what makes it official, right? Going back to Genesis 24th chapter. Well, Isaac took Rebekah into his mother Sarah's tent, and she became his wife. He went in unto her, and that's how she became his wife. When you get a virgin, you break their hymen, right? That's what makes them your wife. And a woman is supposed to be with one man her whole life, right? This is the reality of how the Lord made things to be. But people are so far gone from this that we have, look at the madness you have going on, right? Everyone feels like they're getting done dirty. No one can trust each other. You know what I mean? The divorce rates is through the roof. It's a bunch of madness, however you put it. And there's a handful of people that make it work. You know what I mean? There's even brothers in the truth that are married that make it work. If you have a good situation, I'm gonna add this too, with one woman, that's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not to say you can't have that. If you have a good situation and it's beneficial to you, keep that. We're in captivity. We're not in the kingdom. It's not gonna work, for everybody to just be out here and dealing with multiple women. And a lot of times that just distracts you, right? And we'll get to that later. But this is just, again, the biblical perspective and the truth of the matter. So she's not supposed to divorce this man just because he slept with another woman. That now is supposed to be his wife, and they are now supposed to have, a family. That's supposed to be part of family. And this sounds, to people of this world, this sounds, insane. Meanwhile, you have, you have more marriages happening, same-sex marriages happening, and that kind of thing, and men cutting off their private parts and getting married to animals and all kind of madness going on. But people don't even want to really get on that. But you say a man's can have multiple wives, and you're the bad guy. This is how far and deep rooted this ideology is, man. Esau has really got the minds of the people. And when you even break it down, even thinking logically, it makes more sense. It's more sources of income, right? The families, it can grow faster because the Lord wants us to be fruitful and multiply. That's part of the point. That's one of the first commandments he gave us, going back to the time of Adam, right? So it makes more sense logically when you look at it. And in the way, of course, in this setup, the way they set the world up, it's harder. And you're thinking of financially, you're thinking of the ideologies are so rooted that, people don't think that way, which makes sense. But again, this is how it's supposed to be. So let's get this to just to further prove to you in the law that this is, there's nothing from what we know, based off the information we've been given. This man, Desmond, didn't do nothing wrong in the eyes of the Lord, right? Exodus 21:10. If he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. And if he do not these three unto her, then shall she go free without money, right? So a man is allowed to take another wife. Another, meaning adding one more to the one you already have. Right? And I want to get this because, like I've been saying, this doesn't mean, just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? So 1 Corinthians 10 and 23, it reads, all things are lawful for me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful. Also, like, let me read that from the top. All things are lawful for me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but all things edify not, right? So it's not wise in this time to try to push, the biblical customs, Israelite customs, in this world. It's because, again, the truth, one, is for the small sanctuary. It's for a small group of people who, are coming back, the remnant that's coming back to the Lord. Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, his true name in the Paleo Hebrew, the Heavenly Father and the Son. It's for those who's coming back in the truth in these last days, right? So these biblical customs, for the most part, there's a few women who just will be cool with it, and but for the most part, that's not going to happen, right? And Isaiah 4:1 is about to take place as well, when 7 women shall take hold of one man, because of the destruction and calamity that's going to go on there, and the society is going to be apocalyptic, so they're going to be looking for protection, and all these ideologies are going to go out the window. You're going to see women just snap back into that state of just wanting to be protected, not caring at all how many women is with you, right? It's because Esau has this facade up and these things to protect them, and these ideologies that they can stand on, and these laws that they feel so confident in believing in this BS, right? So let's get this in Micah 2:10. It reads, arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. Because it is polluted, it shall destroy you, even with a sword destruction, right? So again, this is not our rest as Israelite men. Women as well, but it's particularly the men. Because Esau, the so-called white man, our enemy, has created an environment, a place where we cannot be our true selves. We cannot be Israelite men and rule how the Lord intended it to be. And this is a part of also the Lord punishing us due to the curses and our disobedience of our forefathers, pursuant to Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, right? It's a condition of the battle. We don't have the power that we once had. We don't have our women are far gone. Their mindset is long gone from that. Women in general. And some of we have to deal with. And some of you got to navigate and be smart, whatever your situation may be. You got to be smart with it. Let's get this as well. Jeremiah 31:22, it reads, how long wilt thou go about, O backsliding daughter? For the Lord hath created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man, right? A new thing in the earth. Like I said, these concepts and this whole thing of monogamy and feminism, whatever, these are new things in the earth. These are not the things, this is not the way the Lord intended things to be. And this is why we're seeing the example of how not to do things so we can understand how to do things. We're experiencing and living the wickedness so we can appreciate and understand the righteousness and why it's necessary. Right? Because divorce has destroyed so many men, because now it's become a system where women are incentivized to break it because 9 times out of 10 are getting the benefits from it. Getting married on this side is scary. If you have a situation, again, that makes sense for you, cool. But it looks like it doesn't even make sense, to be honest, for especially a brother that knows the truth. But, to each their own. It's all everyone's situation is different, but this is what Esau's created. He's used the word marriage and pretty much just, it's a business. The marriage is just a front. Because as a man, you have no leverage, basically. And this is a natural thing. Like it's crazy because it's a natural urge we get since we're from when we start becoming a young man. From 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, It's natural, and it's not. It doesn't mean be reckless, and it should be harnessed and controlled, and you should be raised properly with this mentality, because there's a lot of ways you can be wicked with it, and it can destroy you as well, right? That happens a lot as well, but nonetheless, of course, being within the confines of the law, like, this is natural. You as a man, you could feel. They make you feel like the worst person on the earth, a scum of the earth, for a natural feeling you get, a natural urge that really is righteous in a sense. And especially as an Israelite man, it's your God-given right. Right? But we're the ones who's demonized for it. We're the bad guys for doing that. But this is the curses, man. This is the duality of our situation. It's the reality of, that's what I should say. It's the reality of our situation and how the Lord has it, and this is hell, right? As the scriptures tell us. So let's get a few more scripts and we'll close it out. So this is 1 Corinthians, let's go back in 1 Corinthians 7th chapter, starting at the 10th verse, and it reads, "And unto the married I command, yet not, but the Lord, let not the wife depart from her husband. And if she depart, let her remain unmarried," right? So, like I said earlier, if a woman decides to really just leave or whatever, then you're still to be unmarried. You're still not to get with another man. Because in this system pushes adultery. It parades and pushes adultery. Because this is Esau, man. This is the wicked that the Bible speaks of, right? This is his system. Reading on, it says, "Or be reconciled to her husband." Let me start again. "But if she depart, let her remain unmarried, or be reconciled to her husband. And let not the husband put away his wife." Right? You're supposed to keep the union together, right? "But to the rest speak I, not the Lord. If any brother have a wife that believeth not, and she be pleased to dwell with him, let him put her not away. And the woman which have a husband that believeth not, and if he is pleased to dwell with her, let her not leave him. For the unbelieving husband is sanctified by the wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the husband. Else were your children unclean, but now are they holy. But if the unbelieving depart, let him depart. A brother or a sister is not under bondage in such cases, but the Most High have called us to peace," right? So again, you're supposed to keep that union together, right? And it really is going into brothers in the faith. If you have an unbelieving wife, you can rub off on her in the spirit, and eventually things will, she'll come around in certain ways, and it will be, it'll get better, and vice versa. But the point is, we're supposed to keep this together. And I wanted to get this earlier on the adultery. I forgot to put this precept when I was speaking on it, because again, adultery is not what people think it is now. They've also changed the perception or the understanding of and meaning of adultery, right? So let's get this. Leviticus 20:10, it reads, "And the man that committeth adultery with another man's wife, even he that committeth adultery with his neighbor's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress shall be surely put to death." So if a man has a wife and there's a woman who's not betrothed or not married, and he has sex with her, that becomes his wife. That's not adultery. Adultery is if a man sees a woman that has a husband and they decide to have sex. That's adultery, because she is another man's wife. This is how it works, right? So this whole thing is just, and it's really it's honestly draining, because you constantly see this every year in, year out for decades now. Men just in this situation and being demonized for pretty much their God-given right, dealing with Israelite men, of course, but men in general, really. And one more scripture, because above all this, the point is not to try and justify yourself and just getting a bunch of women. The point is to understand, obviously it's the truth, it's edifying, it's information. And as a brother, it's to find balance in your situation, because again, we're supposed to be focused on the ministry, focused on the Lord, serving Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, and getting out of here, getting to the kingdom, making it on a chariot. But this is, we're men, you have desires, you have wants, most men want to be with a woman. Some brothers have a spirit where they don't need to, but that's not the case all the time. But we're to be as focused as possible on what we got going on. That's even in your regular life, in your worldly life, you should still prioritize, yourself and building yourself and balancing out family and your woman situation, whatever it may be. But, it's all through the Spirit. It's all a balance through the Spirit. So let's get this and we'll close. This is 1 Corinthians 7:29. It reads, "But this I say, brethren, the time is short. It remaineth that both they that have wives be as though they had none." And Apostle Paul is giving advice, right? This is not, a lot of people use this as if, they use his advice and stuff he says as if it's the law, and they try to turn it and twist it, but it's advice, right? "And they that weep as though they wept not, and they that rejoice as though they rejoice not, and they that buy as though they possess not, and they that use this world as not abusing it. For the fashion of this world passeth away." So be smart in your situation. Use the world with what you have at your situation to benefit you. Like I said, if you have one woman that you're cool with, that's good for you, then do that. Be with that woman, and don't just destroy the woman just because you can. It's lawful to have multiple women. That's not wise, right? Pretty sure a lot of brothers, including myself, have been in that situation, right? Every brother's situation is different, but that's the point. The fashion of this world passeth away. This is temporary, right? Verse 32, but I have you without carefulness, but I would have you without carefulness. He that is unmarried careth for the things that belong to the Lord, how he may please the Lord. But he that is married careth for the things that are of the world, how he may please his wife, right? And that's why you have to balance yourself and pray, really. Pray to the Lord for the balance and the faith and to do the right thing. Because women will drain you. Women will take away from you. You're going to have trouble on the flesh on this side, regardless, dealing with a woman. In some way, shape, or form, it's always going to be something. But, if you feel like you got to have a woman or whatever, then so be it. You got to find a balance. But the point being, this is all off, right? This whole situation, the whole idea of this westernized marriage and these concepts is all wicked and wrong. And it's a weapon used against those Israelite men that's now everybody, right? And it's destroyed the ideas of relationships. It's destroyed a lot of men, even some women in some cases. And now, it's just it's a shit show, right? It's madness, ultimately. But we're coming out of this at some point. The Lord, Isaiah 4:1 is coming at some point, very soon, when all hell breaks loose, right? But in the kingdom, we know things will be done the right way in righteousness. But until then, apply wisdom, be smart, and do what benefits you in serving. Whatever is going to benefit your path in serving Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is what you should do, right? So, Lord willing, this was edifying and uplifting. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Rakakwadash, Shalom, Kwam Yasharala, and the Bible Ball.